Good afternoon, everyone. We're back from our recess. We have 3 presentations today. The first one at 1 o'clock is going to be Topgolf and CenterCal. And the format will be roughly a 30-minute presentation followed by about 30 minutes of questions. So whenever you're ready, the floor is yours. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, members of the Lakes Task Force. We're very grateful to be here today. We're honored to have been working on this project since 2012 through a lot of great work and partnership. My name is John Paul Wardy. I'm the president of CenterCal Properties. We are an El Segundo-based real estate development company. We've been in the city for approximately 12 years. This is our building right down the street, Smoky Hollow. Our mission as a company is to create happiness and prosperity. We do that by creating great projects in great communities. And we think the project that we're talking about today represents both of those things. CenterCal is in the 5 western states. We operate 22 projects in California, Oregon, Washington, Utah, and Idaho, and are happy to call Southern California our home. We specialize in projects where communities and families can come together and celebrate life. And so a lot of our projects through gathering places and food and entertainment really bring the communities that we operate in together. We're grateful to have had the honor of have worked on this project with the city for the last 6 years. We've had the pleasure to have met with the city, community, Chevron, West Basin. We've had in excess of 25 subcommittee meetings. We've been in front of the city council in excess of 10 times. So we've worked well, I think, in partnership, and I think accomplished a lot in that time. This is a timeline starting in 2013 from the city council approving the initial ground lease in 14. The new city council was seated. We went through a couple of different councils. Planning Commission approved the project. City council approved the project. 100% construction documents submitted to city for review, and all the things that have been accomplished. So to summarize, the land use approvals for this project, for the CenterCal Topgolf project, have been approved. We've been through our environmental review. We've been produced all the construction documents for the golf course improvements, the Topgolf facility, as well as the rest of the project. And we've received permit comments and are ready to pull a permit on all of those improvements. In 2015, we met with the Golf Course Design Task Force. Through a competitive process, we picked Fry Straka Global as our golf course architect to make the improvements that are being represented here today, which included, our goal was to make it a much safer course and a better course and a more modern course. We believe we've done that. Some of the improvements as proposed would be a 38,000 square foot practice area, which includes 5,600 square feet of chipping greens, 2,000 square feet of lakeside bunker, new putting greens, and new LED lighting on the golf course. These are all improvements that would be made to the existing course. In addition, we'd build a new 2,500 square foot pro shop and restaurant facility, golf shop starter area, new restrooms, new management office, and a new restaurant facility, which would be part of the operation that would be owned by the city, operated by the city. This is an image of the finished facility with the Topgolf facility, parking lot improvements, the pro shop and restaurant, and all of the improvements to the golf course. As I mentioned earlier, Architects Orange worked on the project with us on the golf shop. They were the architect on the point. Bryce Straka designed the golf course, and we had Somas do all the civil work. This is another view of the facility from the golf course. And this is a view looking at the water and from the practice facility. This is a view from the restaurant patio as part of the pro shop overlooking the water. And this is the new pro shop building with the outdoor, you can see the covered area of patio for the restaurant. Another view of the pro shop. And this is the proposed overall site plan of the project. So we're, as we mentioned, we're excited to be here. We put a lot of effort into this project. We're honored to have worked with the city for as long as we have. And I'd like to introduce Alf Burl with the CEO of Topgolf Entertainment Group to share some words about Topgolf. Thank you.
Thank you, John Paul, and good afternoon to all of you. It's a privilege to be here. We're going to cue a video here, but by way of background, I've lived most of my adult life in Southern California. I was the House of Blues COO for a number of years, the president for Lucky Strike Entertainment, and now live in the very hot prairie in Dallas. But my 3 children were born in Southern California, and there are no bigger Dodgers fans certainly in Texas, than where in my family. It was a sad day when Kershaw got hurt, but Matt Kemp coming on strong, and we're big fans. So let's do the video here. But my intent in sharing a little bit about my background is I'm an operator by background. I've operated in multiple jurisdictions many times in California and across the country. So let's have the video, and then we'll talk a little bit more about Topgolf.
So today's National Golf Day at Topgolf, and we've welcomed guests from as little as 1-year-old all the way up to 92 years old. And I have to tell you, it's been amazing to see what's gone on.
I'm 40.
I'm 76.
We just enjoy being here. We've never been to Topgolf before, but it's a lot of fun.
So you've been to Topgolf a lot of times.
I like hitting the balls, and I get so many points.
I swung a golf club for the first time today. Woo!
Looks like they're having a good time to me. I think there's lots of reasons to come to Topgolf, whether you just enjoy the competitiveness, you enjoy the challenges that it presents, or you just want to have a good time with your friends.
Here you can just have a blast. You can just hit the balls, and you can talk, and you can do whatever you want.
This has got me encouraged, being out here at Topgolf, to go out and play golf again.
A lot of people can come here and have fun, even if they're not good at it.
Whether you come to Topgolf to practice your game, to have a couple of drinks, to listen to live music, to hang out with family and friends, there is literally something here for everyone, whether golf is your thing or not.
It's not like anything else you've ever done. People will ask me, what is it like? And I said, it's like Topgolf.
Topgolf is for everybody. They should come here all the time.
It's for everybody in the family, and you can just have a great time.
It's nice to just sit out on the bay and just mess around and have fun for a couple hours.
I think it was just low pressure and easy to have fun.
It's really a place for everyone.
Topgolf is everyone's.
Everyone's thing.
Let me know when we're back on the slideshow. You may know us as the company that invented this new form of recreation, which is trying to transform golf, make golf available to the masses. We're very big on inclusion, and that's a video that was done on National Golf Day that celebrates multiple generations and people from every decade coming and playing. And I think it speaks to the accessibility, but also our commitment to not only grow the game of golf, but provide an important element in bringing people together. And in fact, the vision for us is to be a global sports entertainment community that creates a great time for everyone. And the purpose of the company is to connect people in meaningful ways. And so we have a broader social purpose and mission than just building venues and making money. I actually grew up in a nonprofit family, environmental nonprofit family, and so doing good in the world is who we are, and it's a lot of who we try to attract into our company. What kind of people do we want to have working with us? What do we want to do as partners in communities and with all the folks that we interact with on so many levels? We have a number of core values. We always talk about these. We do want to be a place that's fun. We consider ourselves on some level an antidote to a big problem in society, which is increased loneliness. I don't know if you've read about the stats around loneliness, but people are more lonely than they've ever been. largely because of what's happening on screens. People are spending time on screens. I have 2 boys who are in school, and they're lonely when there are people right down the hall that I'm confident that they could have a good time with. And so we consider ourselves part of the antidote for that. So being fun for people of all types and all ages, being one team, that's something we think very hard about. We are collaborative by nature. We are not a cookie cutter big chain that just goes out and tries to impose our will. We never would have gotten this far had that been our mentality. Each of the cities that we go to and each of the organizations we have in each of the city are the front-facing leaders in that city for us. I am actually not important. What is important is the director of operations that you're working with. I'm important to the extent that I can support them and have them have a great life and fulfill their dreams and hire the great people out of high school and other places that we attract from. But we work very hard not to be an arrogant, and we are actually enthusiastic and try to stay humble. Excellence is important to us. We consider ourselves at the forefront of every aspect of these buildings and also the technology, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a second. Edgy spirit for us is, what does edgy spirit mean, right? So edgy spirit for us is the idea that we want people to be comfortable being themselves, and whoever they are and whatever they come from. But we also want to be brave as a company. Let's be brave enough to innovate and try new things and not feel forced into a smaller box than this concept, but also our mission deserves. And then caring is a very big part of what we do. I'm on the national board for Make-A-Wish. I have a son on the autism spectrum. And so personally for me, if we're part of why we're all here is to do well by each other and to try to enhance each other's lives. But it's much more than me. The company was that way before I showed up about 6 months ago. And so caring is something that wraps very tightly into what we do from a charity standpoint, but just our orientation towards long-term relationships in cities where we will be for a long time. We're actually an ecosystem, and let me just talk about the different parts of Topgolf. And what you'll get from this, I think, is our how forward we are as it relates to technology, but also how all of the parts of the ecosystem actually play into a stronger Topgolf in El Segundo. So our venue business. We'll have 50 venues by the end of the year. We're deeply experienced in working with communities, doing the right thing in terms of our buildings and also all the training and the systems and everything that go into getting good at that sort of approach. We'll have 20,000 employees, I think, by the end of the year. I may have mentioned that. And we are always trying to push forward as it relates to our venue design and the technology and our training systems. A team that would come to El Segundo would want to be here. They would be deeply experienced in operating and opening other venues. So you would not have anyone who wasn't familiar with what I would call a world-class approach to building and growing a strong Topgolf here. The Top Tracer range business is quite interesting. If you watch golf on TV, and if you watch, for example, the Open, the British Open coming up, if you see the flight of the ball and then the technology around what happens with the ball, how does it curve, how high does it go, how fast does it go, that's us. That is our technology, and that's technology that we bring to our venues. So historically, we've had RFID technology, and that relates to balls going into targets, and that's something that's still part of what we do. But the tracer technology that's in about half of our venues now and will be in all of them actually captures the full flight of the ball and has a tremendous gamification dimension. So you can play Topgolf into the hard asset, the field and the targets, but you also can play it into a virtual world. And so over time, as that's even more developed, you can kill zombies if you want to when balls fly through the air. You can play famous courses across the world. All of that is part of what happens with that technology. Interestingly enough, too, that's a technology that allows us to network all of the tracer sites across the world. So as we push into driving ranges and golf courses across the world, we actually would be capable of having a worldwide global tournament with 10 million people on Tracer, all competing against each other. And if you throw in a charitable dimension to that or what have you, you have something that's quite exciting and really fun, right? Like it's fun to just think about. One of the things my dreams is to network pretty soon all of the Army and Navy bases and Air Force bases and across the world, of which there are quite a number, and have all of those competitive people compete against each other, and we could debate about who might win that tournament. But well, let's just say we're rooting for everybody. On the swing suite side of the business, that's actually the urban, smaller, hitting into a screen in a room, say a quarter this size, and you can play golf courses. You can actually throw a baseball into a screen like that. You can throw a football. And so that's a technology that you might have seen in smaller settings. We're doing that in hotels and a variety of entertainment venues across the country. But I think the big point here is that if you combine those various technologies together and think about what they could mean in a Topgolf venue, because they integrate, and will do so more over time, there's no one who is spending more time on quality of the ball capture and also the type of games that you can play with it, and also networking people together than we are. We have competitors who are copying parts of this and also our venues, but we are putting more time, more money, and more people against this for the future than anyone, and we'll continue to do that. The media properties are several. We have the most popular game on that you can play related to golf on your phone is our game. It's World Golf Tour. In the coming year, 20 million or more people will be playing that. And so that's another way that we create community and bring people together. That also can tie to things we do in the venue. And Topgolf Crush, which you see up there, is the ability to go to a stadium and set up a Topgolf for a day or two, so that if you really want to hit from the stands in Dodger Stadium or in Anaheim or wherever, or even your local high school here, that can be done, and we do a fair amount of that, typically related to charitable endeavors. Internationally, we have deals in Canada and Mexico and Dubai and Australia. We just actually opened a Topgolf in the Gold Coast of Australia. You're all invited, were you ever to be in that neighborhood, which is not a short flight, I can assure you. But we were very thrilled that Hugh Jackman decided that he would tweet out on that, and that brought even more people. In the first week, he was celebrating for the home team as an Australian, and so we're growing internationally. And I think it was relevant for me to say here, why is El Segundo such a big deal for us? Why have we spent so many years part of it? And there's several reasons. First of all, there's no more powerful market than Southern California, and it casts a shadow across not only this region, but also across the world. I am deeply familiar with the fact that if we put our absolute best foot forward with a flagship facility, with the very best of everything, that has a big impact on what we can someday do in Asia. And so our willingness to spend a lot and to make sure that this is world class and the very best of what we can do, based on all of our experience, is very sincere for reasons that go beyond the local. And that's not to diminish in any way how committed we are to the local high school and to a number of things that others will talk about, because it all starts there. Maybe this is a time for me just to share, too, that we have a big relationship with the PGA and LPGA. All of our instructors are certified and come out of that program. They do a lot with us with youth, particularly, and something that you may have seen in the presentation is that as it relates to high school teams and any kind of youth organizations, they play free at Topgolf from 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. And I will get out there ahead of myself, and I will likely be either dead or retired by the time this comes true, but I'm confident that youth playing Topgolf today will be the pro golfers of the future. And so one of the things I'm interested in India, as an example, or here in El Segundo, is the kid who has no privilege, but played for free when they were young at Topgolf, and they got their 10,000 or 100,000 hits in by the time they were 12, and someday they're a pro golfer and a person who is advancing the game. And I'm confident that we will be part of that, because we're literally roping in a larger number of children than any other force in golf today. Here's our aesthetic. This would be familiar to you from past times. We have any number of parts of the building. We really work hard to make sure that it's safe, that it's functionally efficient, and that also it's welcoming to all types of people. And so, whether that's someone who's handicapped or someone from different sorts of backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, what have you, we're trying to appeal to all. You can see just variety of what we do here. I know you're familiar with this, but we're very serious about what happens in the internal spaces, also the outfield. and a combination of restaurants and lounges. And then also, other games that can be played at Topgolf. So whether it's on the rooftop terrace or on patios, there's a variety of things that we're experimenting with that make it fun for kids and for families were they not to be golfing at that moment. Sometimes that's on a wait, or sometimes it's just because a family, is coming through on a Saturday and they have young children and they want to play, beanbag toss or electronic games or some other form of entertainment. We have a bunch of venues, and we're building more. We're opening in Pittsburgh here shortly, and so we have a very reliable machine around this. And we spend a lot of time and effort to make sure that it's predictable, that it works well with the local community. I hope, if nothing else, that the 6 years that we've been working with you, that you would know that we're committed and we're excited and that we follow through. And we show up when it's important. Like, those are things that I'm sure any number of people could say, but this is a battle-tested time together, right? And here we are in the next spot. We were very hopeful that you'll look favorably on our request to work with you. From a charitable standpoint, no one does more than we do. You probably know that golf actually has more charitable giving than any other sport, and that's partly because of the nature of golf, but I also think it comes from the PGA and the golfers themselves, and we are very much part of that. So we have every day we're doing something related to this, but as it relates to youth and all the free work we're doing with them, that's important to us. We do a lot with the military, with Folds of Honor. Hurricane Harvey is something that we couldn't do enough, honestly. We have 3 venues down there, but 225,000 meals, I think, is there. But that is really an important touchstone for us as a company culturally, because when you talk to today's youth and the new workforce coming out and the millennials and mission and purpose, you have to prove that you do care, and you have to prove that you stand up when it's important. And so that's not why we did that, but it is a story that resounds with people as an example of an opportunity to do more than most for-profit companies would do. And so I continue to be grateful for what the company did back at that time. One thing I didn't mention was the media part of our business. We have our World Golf Tour game, but we also do original content and a lot on social media. And so we have original series that you could see on Amazon Prime or Topgolf TV. And these are human interest oriented. And so they could be competitive, but they typically revolve around good human stories. And it could be related to chefs and our food. It could be related to relationships that people have. We have a battle of the bands that's sort of music oriented that happens related to Topgolf. And this is our way of keeping the brand interesting for people, but also showing just that we're much more than golf. And yet we're anchored in golf and take it very seriously. Maybe it came through and you understand this already, but we're extremely serious about a great golf experience in the holes that you have in the golf course next to Topgolf. The serious golfer needs to have a great experience. That's one of the reasons why we feel having a dedicated clubhouse that allows them to have their own space for the most serious golfers is a good idea. I think were it integrated into Topgolf, it would be efficient, and there are some pluses related to that, and we certainly can serve their needs out of a larger facility. But for people who really enjoy traditional golf and might be concerned that somehow Topgolf coming in sort of impinges or hurts the classic traditional play that you've enjoyed here for so long, we want to make sure that there is still the opportunity for them to have that experience. And we can do a lot with technology related to what happens on that course for people who are interested, based on what I said before and things that we continue to work on. But I think it is also important for the more traditional player to know that they have been addressed and are being taken care of. And I think the clubhouse design and the food that can be done there all will feel ideally like an upgrade from where you are today. That would be the intent, because we believe that the whole environment has to work together, right? Everybody has to work together on that. So I think you have the details on this. We would estimate spending about $40 million to make this all the ways that it should be. That includes investment not only in the golf course, but the clubhouse, but also what we do for for the actual Topgolf facility. You can read the details here. One of the things that we're pushing harder on, and I think is really important as a company, is just commitment to environmental sustainability. These are big buildings with a lot of metal and a lot of paint and a lot of fabric, and so that is something we care about, and we could talk more about. But on that list, that's something I wanted to highlight. This is more about what we do with youth. So again, the PGA and LPGA, kind of vital and integral to what we do. But I mentioned what we do with high school teams and with youth leadership programs. There are further programs that relate to young children, summer academies. We do actually do a fair amount with what we call the Heroes discount related to military. And then we have leagues. One of the fun things you can do is have relatively competitive leagues and then also less competitive leagues. We actually cover all of those bases because there are those people who really want to compete and like competing hard against each other, and other people just enjoy the social. So there's a difference between a social league and a really competitive league, and we have work that we do on all sides of that. So soon I will turn it over to Devin, who has, I know, done a lot. So Devin, if you want to stretch out and get ready, you're in the on-deck circle here. $40 million investment, an estimated $50 million of direct economic impact here. 1.7 million of guaranteed annual lease, but that actually is towards the 2.1 million with some other features that we have that will go in there. So think of 2.1 as the important number. You maintaining control of the golf course, we are flexible on that. If you need for us or a strong partner of ours to run, I actually worked for Club Corp at one point, which is the largest owner of golf courses in America, and so we have expertise and certainly know folks who can do that. So rest assured that as it relates to running the golf course, there's options, but we want to do what you think is best, recognizing also that there's a number of professionals and folks who have done well for you in that respect in the past. And I think also important was the special pricing considerations for residents of El Segundo. And I think so I think what I've done is I've been predatory here. I think that was actually Devin's slide, but he's smiling, he's happy, you took a little bit of burden there off it. I do want to just highlight one other thing, which is our contribution related to your overall community fund. We know that you operate beaches and community pools and athletic fields. Were you to want to spend, I think it's $200,000 related to that, that would be your choice clearly, or you might have other reasons, but that would be an effort on our part to try to contribute to the overall well-being of El Segundo, and we consider that a good investment on our part. And if any of that were to tie into a healthier population or people who want to be more active and outdoors more, and therefore also enjoy the facility that we're trying to all build together, all the better. But that is actually not an expectation on our part. Our expectation is you would pay that wherever it's most needed. So thank you for listening. Appreciate being here. And finally, a trained professional to come up and share even more. Devin has been on this project for a number of years. And so Devin, please take over.
Thank you, Dolph. For those of you who don't know me, Devin Sharon, Director of Real Estate for Topgolf. So Dolph did walk through this slide, but I just wanted to reiterate that between the Topgolf project and the investment on the golf course, it's a $40 million investment that we anticipate generating in excess of $50 million of direct benefit to the city of El Segundo over 20 years. So I wanted to spend a few minutes really breaking down our proposal and the different components of it. The base rent is a $1.3 million base rent that escalates 10% every 5 years. Separate from that base rent is a $200,000 percentage rent. So it's a 3%, say $200,000. It's 3% of beverage sales with a floor of $200,000. So what that means that in no event will the city earn less than $200,000 on that revenue stream. The third component is the fund contribution. So this is something that we're very excited about. We view this as a long-term partnership with the city of El Segundo, and we want to further our mission as a company. Dolph touched on it, but we are a very purpose-driven company that is committed to connecting people in meaningful ways and creating shared experiences. And we feel like this fund is a very unique opportunity for us to extend that mission to the city and partner with you all in promoting the health, well-being, education, civic engagement within the city. Separate from that 1.7 million, we would waive the annual business license credit. So that's an additional 56,000. And then on top of that, we project an additional 371,000 of benefit to the city. So what comprises that number is our sales tax, our property tax, as well as the net income from the golf course. So we actually anticipate a lift in golf course revenues as a result of the money that we're investing in the golf course. We anticipate, with the lighting that we're contributing, some additional revenue from night golf, as well as just more participation. One thing that Dolph mentioned is that we truly are growing the game. In 2017, National Golf Foundation conducted a survey. What they found was that 25% of people that were new to the game of golf actually had been to a Topgolf first. And 75% of those people said that Topgolf influenced their decision to play. So there's real tangible evidence that we truly are growing the game. So in total, we anticipate a $2.1 million annual impact benefit to the city of El Segundo. The last thing I wanted to touch on was our special hours and pricing for the community. So we would propose opening our doors at 6 a.m. every day, and Monday through Friday offering City of El Segundo Parks and Rec members discounted buckets of balls at $10 per bucket from 6 a.m. to 12 p.m., and Saturday and Sunday, $10 from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. And Dolph also mentioned that beyond this consideration, we do offer 10% discount to what we call a heroes discount to fire, EMS, military, police. And separate from that, we've got a Play It Forward program where if you're part of a leadership organization or a local high school golf team, you come to Topgolf during the week and play for free. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to John Paul to conclude.
Thank you very much. And again, we're just honored to be here, and thank you for all the support and opportunity to be back in front of you. And I just wanted to close by saying thank you and leave you with a couple of thoughts as to why we picked Topgolf as a partner. As a shopping center developer, we're in the business of underwriting tenants. So one of the things that we looked at in picking Topgolf is, they are the market leader. They created the market. By the end of this year, they'll operate 50 facilities. They've been operating for 18 years. So when you compare that to competitors that have come into the market, in our mind, there was really no decision there. And we've been honored to have been working with them. The way they've operated, the way they've stood up to their obligations, has been a unique experience for us. I want to thank you again for working with us as long as the city has, and thank you very much.
All right, well, thank you all. Any questions for CenterCal or Topgolf?
No questions, but Dolph, you alluded to a military tournament. I can assure you with great certainty that the Air Force would win.
So my dad was, I like what you're saying. My dad was in the Air Force, served in Vietnam, and we'll have to see. Have to see, yeah. But there's a lot of precision with the Air Force, so.
I'm a former Air Force guy too, so I think the Air Force would.
I'm confident that will not affect this RFAP, but thank you for the service. Yeah.
So I have just a point of clarification. You said that it would include the $1.3 million annual base rent plus 3% of beverage. And then you said, was it at least $200,000, or is there a cap, or is that a minimum? I wasn't quite sure what you meant by that.
The $200,000 is a straight up, not related to anything else, contribution.
There's two different ones.
So come on over. Yeah.
I'll walk through that again. So it's a $1.3 million base rent. On top of that, there's a percentage rent, which is calculated as the greater of 3% of beverage sales or $200,000. And then separate from that, there's a $200,000 annual contribution.
So there is no cap of the 3% of the beverage sale?
There's a floor, not a cap.
Okay, yeah. So no cap. And the other question or comment that I have, you said you included property tax, but why would you pay property tax on a lease?
It's a triple net lease, right? Yeah, we would pay property tax on the 10 acres that we're leasing, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Some basic questions. I take my family of 4 to Top Golf. What's it going to cost me to play for an hour?
It depends very much on when you go and what you decide to do there. But bays would be as low as $25 an hour for the 4 of you, or as high as pushing towards $50 if you go on a Saturday night. And if you buy food, the food would be sort of similar to what you'd pay at a mid-scale restaurant. So I would have to. That's the math, right?
Right.
You can probably figure it out from there. Yeah, we work very hard to be affordable for families, particularly, or people with less spending and capability. And so the most expensive time is typically when we're the most busy on Friday and Saturday nights. But there's a lot of other day parts and we're actually working on further discount programs that relate to that.
Okay. And then what is, if you could describe your average clientele at Top Golf?
I think it varies greatly by city. I mean, we have 5-year-olds who swing very well all the way up to 90-year-olds. We're a mass market concept. Depending on the location, it skews more family versus more young adults. So in Dallas, for example, if you were to go to our facility in Allen, that would be a predominantly family location, and you would see families there almost all the time. The Colony, which is about 10 miles from there, skews much more young adult later in the evenings because those are the people who are out and enjoy socializing at that time. So we work pretty hard to make sure that there are programs for everyone. And as it relates to events, we do lots of corporate parties, but an awful lot of social parties too. So whether that's a birthday party or an anniversary or a wedding related or a bar mitzvah or a quinceañera, there's just any number of occasions where we're a good place to do it, and we work very hard to cast a wide net.
Are there other Top Golf facilities where the city runs, or first that are next to a golf course, where the city runs the golf course, and are there other facilities where there's a Top Golf and Top Golf is running the golf course?
We don't actually run any golf courses per se, but there are places where we're, I think, proximate to golf. Come on over. So this is the challenge for me is I'm only a few months into the company, and so I don't want to be inaccurate, but Devin can be more clear.
Sure. Our second venue in the U.S. is in Chicago, the city of Wooddale. So there we are adjacent to a municipal golf course that is operated by.
Okay, so you run the driving range, and then the city runs their golf course right next to it.
Correct.
Okay.
Shared parking.
Yeah, I've actually been to that one. That's the one I've been to.
If you are there in February, you will see a remarkable number of people golfing in the cold. It's actually sort of surprising.
Right. Mm-hmm. Any further questions?
You talked about your top tracer technology and gameplay, which I assume is similar to screen. I noticed on one of your slides, I think it's number 24, the screen sits right there at the tee box. Do you currently do gameplay at any of your venues?
Tell me what you mean by gameplay.
By gameplay, you're actually playing a round of golf, like say at Pebble Beach or something like that, screen golf or
yeah.
Something
Currently,
like
we don't do that at any of the venues, but that's technology that we will have in venues in relatively short order. So that's very much part of the tracer environment and also the swing suites environment. And as those technologies merge over into the venues, that's an opportunity. Yeah.
What would be your guess on a timeline for that technology in your venues?
I would say 6 to 9 months.
Thank you.
You want to play Pebble Beach, don't you?
I want to play Pebble.
Well, you could travel there faster than in 6 or 9 months, but it'll be good, once you get it in the tracer environment.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and just with respect to the golf course, you're saying we're going to leave it up to the city. If you want to run the golf course and pick your own operator, fine. If not, we'll partner with somebody and run it for you, and it'll be a turnkey lease situation.
That's correct. Yes.
All right. Anything, Carol? Meredith? No?
What?
Just real quick, the scorecard, your actual yardage on there was going to be 1,200 yards. Is that about right? I noticed. And the only reason why I
on
mentioned
the
that,
slide, Devin.
We need to go back a bit.
You can look at, I think there was a cutback on the yardage.
You're referring to the golf links.
The golf course,
Golf
the way
course.
it was designed. And the reason why I ask, it looked like hole 3 had 2 separate tee boxes, and I was wondering just what your yardage is going to be.
It's a very good eye, and sure.
There you go.
Good luck reading that.
That might be why I had a tough time reading it.
Children's tee, the closer one.
Oh, it's okay.
Okay, is this the golf course
And it looks like
designed by the...
1208 on this. Does that sound about right? 1,200 yards?
Can you expand that? It's on the right side, the proposed yardage.
I have it here.
If my eyes
You
were
have it?
better.
Oh, yeah, it's in here.
Not sure if you can do anything on the computer that magnifies that, but
It's in the RFP.
it's in there.
RFP, that would be accurate.
Got it.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah, thanks
Thank
for
you.
asking.
We just have bad eyes.
1206.
Will the golf course be open during Topgolf construction, or will it be simultaneous?
So there's, go ahead.
For our lease with the city, what we have engaged with is a 6-month process. So we would be basically phasing to get Topgolf open second and the golf course first. So the intent was to get the parking lot done first and the net poles up, so the course can be open within a 4 to 6 month.
And this is the course that was designed through the subcommittee meetings with the city?
As far as I recall, yeah, with the striker.
All right, any further questions from the task force or from staff?
I just thought he did a good job in designing the course, especially the number 9 hole coming back and making it a par 3. Even though it's shorter, it's still a tougher hole.
We very much appreciate the time today.
Well, thank you. Thank you all for coming down and for meeting with us and giving a presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you to all of you who have worked so much on this.
Thank you.
All right. According to our agenda, our next presentation is Billy Casper Golf, and that'll be at 2:30. So I'll make a motion to recess until 2:30. According to the agenda, that'll be at the end of the presentations. And since our last presentation is at 4, I'm guessing 5:30. So this agenda had public... Sir, wait. If you want to speak at public communications, on the agenda there's at the beginning of the meeting and then at the very end of the meeting. My best guess, maybe like 5 o'clock after that last presentation, we're more than welcome to have public comments. You can also email the city staff, and all those emails will be part of this process because everything we're doing is an open meeting. So all of our RFPs, everything we have is open. So you can either come at the beginning of the meeting, or you can come at the end of the meeting, or you can send us an email or a letter. Hope I answered your question, all right? I just didn't want to speak over you, but no one can hear you if you're not in the microphone, and we're trying to broadcast this. You can also watch these meetings at the El Segundo YouTube channel and on the website, right? So again, the whole purpose of what the task force is doing is we're just getting more information, and then ultimately the city council is going to take over the actual negotiations with whomever they decide is best suited for the city. All right? All right. Thank you all for coming. We're going to, well, first, let me make the motion to recess until 2:30.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you. We'll be in recess till 2:30. 2:30 presentation is going to be from Billy Casper Golf. So please take it away.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time being here this afternoon. How's everyone holding up? I know it's Friday afternoon. Everybody's okay. All right. My name's Joe Goodrich. I'm the Executive Vice President, Billy Casper Golf. I've been with the organization for 26 years. With me in the audience and not listed up there is Tom Prince, who's our Director of Marketing, Bob Ewing, who's our Regional Director of Operations, both based here in Southern California. We're extremely excited to be involved in this opportunity with 2 other members. Paul Major, former CEO of American Golf, I've known Paul for over 15 years, worked on many industry initiatives together as leaders in the industry. Also, Paul's been a resident of this community for 20 plus years. Also, partnering with Josh Albert. Many of you know Josh. He's probably taught some of your children golf at the lakes. He has a very vested interest in the lakes. He's been there for over 20 years providing instruction and is a resident of the El Segundo community. We went through the RFP, and your vision, your goals for the lakes was very clear. Talked about recreation and park value. We partner with over 50 municipal golf courses, entities. Financial performance, your goal was self-sustaining. Right now you have an asset that's losing money. The goal was self-sustaining. Our proposal provides for that. The RFP wanted capital investment, facility improvement. Obviously the lakes have been deficient in the last several years from involvement as you've been wrestling with this other decision. Our plan shows $1.8 million going back into the facility and getting it up to par, pardon the quote. Our use and our proposal is also compliant with the existing grant deed and, more importantly, the original intent. Risk assessment and track record, organization's been involved in this industry for over 29 years. We operate over 85 municipal golf courses. Contact any one of them. I think our proposal meets your vision and your goals. Our proposal is totally aligned with the goals and vision that you put out in your RFP. I've read all the proposals, and I've sat here for the last day and a half and watched the other three proposals, which are really focused on big box entertainment venue. Your path, your choice could not be more divergent. You've got one opportunity to go with one of the three that just presented, which is offering big box entertainment. You have another path, a path that didn't exist 6 months ago. 6 months ago, your options were either Topgolf or the status quo. Today, you have another alternative, which we've proposed, which is viable. This other choice you have is a viable alternative, and we think makes the most sense. Our path is focused on your community. It's focused on the community of El Segundo. I've sat here for the last day and a half and listened to everybody call it El Segundo. Okay? I know that. We know that. This is our path. Our path is focused on community. The other path, what you see right there, wouldn't happen. Matter of fact, that area right there would become a parking lot. That venue would become a parking lot. Or an opportunity for big box entertainment until 2 a.m. Our path embraces the vision and the goals of the RFP and is 100% focused on your community. Why do we know that? Again, I'm going to re-emphasize our successful track record, 29 years of experience. 85 municipal facilities that we operate. Paul, when he was CEO of American Golf, operated over 130 municipal golf courses. Out of our 85, 50 of those are in a municipal leasehold structure, which we've contemplated here. So we're very familiar with the process, and we're very familiar working with municipalities from all around the country. We'll talk about our plan for a minute in a little bit more detail. All the other proposals show changes to the golf course. Pretty much every one of them showed the first hole going away, shortening the 9th hole to a par 3, and then breaking up the third hole into 2 par 3s. Our plan, as we showed in our response, changes the overall yardage about 178 yards. And about 178 yards less, we end up with 9 par 3s. One of the most important things that we're doing is we're taking the last 4 poles of the driving range here and creating a dedicated academy for the learning and instruction of golf. So that we're not having people teaching amongst other people just coming out to hit a bucket of balls and groups and programs. And like this week we had, I think, 60 kids out there. That they're in an environment, an area that doesn't infringe on the a la carte golf use. We're also taking an area here to the right, which will be about 4 to 5 bays, and we're going to enclose those areas with roll-up garage doors, fully conditioned space, which will allow us to have club fitting, utilizing the best technology in conditioned space. We also talked, and you'll see in our proposal, and I won't go into it and review all the elements, but overall, we looked through what you submitted as the needs of the property. We addressed 95% of them. I don't think we addressed needing a new fence, and I think more recently, you might need a new sign. I know that there was a car that went in. I don't know if that's covered by insurance, okay? But that wasn't in our plan, but we can revise it. In addition to that, what that does is it frees up what is now the 9th green for our short game area. This current putting green and bunker there is just, it's busy. If there's any group activity, you can't go out there and putt. There's just no place to do that. You want to get out of your car, go hit putts for 15 minutes, relax, get back in your car. And if there's groups out there, you can't do that. Our goal calls and allows for all of that activity, the group activity, to happen here, and a la carte use here. In our proposal, we also talked about possibly having some type of, I call it miniature golf, but a putting course. It's not putt-putt that we think of with, you know, the orange 2x4s. That's not it. Okay. But a putting course or something that would allow people to spend some time out there over a longer period of time. In the clubhouse, we're also going through the clubhouse, recarpeting, repainting, new lighting, addressing ADA compliance in the bathrooms, and also reconfiguring all of the interior space and food and beverage. Consolidate the 1 bar operation. We've also allowed for some additional awnings out and around the clubhouse to expand seating where you're out of the sunlight. Occasional rain here in Southern California. And we've also allowed for some expanded parking. One of the elements that's different in our plan than the other 3 that I heard from was having some space for a multi-purpose field. We've recognized the need for that. Our envision here is a 50 by 75 yard field. It's lighted. That would address all the AYSO needs for their youth soccer. 1 field, but we heard loud and clear from this community it was a need, and we want to incorporate that into our plan. Technology your way. What does that mean? That is a picture of a facility we operate about 5 minutes from our office. As you can see, it's wired up for technology. It kind of looks like the pictures you've been looking at over the last 3 presentations. But I'm going to talk to you for a few moments about what's happening in this industry. What's happening in this industry, you've got Topgolf, which has been the leader. They've gotten a big head start against the other 2 firms. And that's what's happening in what I'll call big box entertainment venues. Over the next several years, those 3 companies plus some others are going to be looking for sites all around the country and competing for the best sites all around the country with their model. But more importantly, and what the industry and the general public doesn't realize today, is that part of their plan is to also take that same technology that you find in their bays and make it available to every driving range in the country, every golf course in the country. And they're doing so in a very, what I'll call fairly affordable fashion. We're not going to say, won't tell them it's affordable, but fairly affordable fashion. Estimates on this, probably about $200 per bay per month to install that technology in a bay, hit balls. Giving a golfer all the feedback they need on every shot they've hit, being able to play any game you want. And this technology is changing at light speed. If it's 0 today, it's going to be warp speed. The next 18 to 24 months are going to be nothing like this industry's ever seen before as it relates to embracing technology. One of the reasons why we did not propose having a specific technology, because we're demoing this technology today. We started in April. It's not perfect. I'm not ready to make a decision on it. They're moving in the right direction. They're doing a great job, and it's a great product, but it's not finished. Our plan is to include technology at the lake. Just can't tell you which version. Although I can tell you, each of their technology is updating every month with different games and different ads and things like that. When they release those, they have a whole team. Every one of them have a team working on upgrading that technology. So whatever you saw today or yesterday will be enhanced 30 to 60 days from now. We're going to watch to see which one gets there the quickest and which one puts in the support the product, as well as support the facilities. Here's a picture of our facility in which we do custom club fitting, utilizing technology. As you can see, they have choices: Titleist, Callaway, Ping, TaylorMade. Each one of the other vendors is aligned with one vendor, each that you spoke with. There won't be that choice. We think club fitting is an integral part of the golf experience. It's taking new golfers and making sure they get fit properly into a set of golf clubs. Just like if you're a skier, getting properly fit in the right set of skis. Another component that we've included is health and wellness. We will have a TPI certified program at the lakes that's going to focus on strength and conditioning and flexibility for kids, women, 50-year-old guys with no hair, and seniors. Because not only is it going to help them in the game of golf, it's going to help them in life. That's important. I'm going to turn over to Josh. He'll be better at talking about our plans for instruction.
No different than any of the other park and rec facilities that we have in El Segundo, baseball fields, soccer fields. The Lakes is a learning facility, first and foremost. It's where people come to learn and practice and play the game of golf. That's what we have it for. And it's where our community has come for a long time to enjoy outdoor recreation in ways that are consistent with park and rec values. Our current staff of instructors represent over 200 years of experience teaching the game of golf, and we would imagine that all of them will want to stay should you select our group to take over the Lakes moving forward. I've been teaching golf for 20 years at the Lakes at El Segundo and founded Good Swings Happen 10 years ago, as much because of what we want to do to raise a next generation of people as it is a next generation of golfers. The golf it's important. It's extremely important. But what has been built at that facility for our greater community, and now with the intention of really focusing in on our El Segundo community. And this last year, for those of you who don't know, the Gundo Golf League was just created. And it's sort of the you ask build it and they will come kind of a thing. There are families lined up to participate in elementary school programs in El Segundo. Our vision is to then create a club program next year. And with the support of several parents through the community who want to be a part of getting a golf team together. We've talked about it for a long time, but a high school golf team is something that we intend to facilitate in 2020. These are our kids. And this is where your kids play, is the Lakes at El Segundo is raising kids from 5 to 17 right now on a year-round basis to participate in ways that the education in El Segundo promotes. This is a playground. This is a recreation park playground. And I respectfully understand it's on the other side of Sepulveda, but it is the playground where our kids play golf. And as such, we need to make sure that we keep it that way. From a golf standpoint, from a family standpoint, from a community standpoint, this is an enormous allure of why it is that I chose to live in this community as our park and rec system. And to lessen the impact of the choices you have to make on the family dynamic and the kid dynamic in this regard really needs to be understood and clearly thought through before you guys make a big decision here. This is just a short story. Michael D'Angelo is a PGA apprentice. Matt Ferradas is our program specialist. These kids grew up at the Lakes at El Segundo. And when I mean grew up at the Lakes at El Segundo. They were dropped off by their parents. They were dropped off on the curb, but they walked in. They take a golf lesson. They would go play. They would have lunch. They participated in our summer camps, the same summer camp that they just worked in up until 2.5 hours ago, because we had 45. No, it's 45. So it was not 60 kids. It was 40 kids. There were these guys are the ones who now stand in front of the kids that they were once upon a time and are handing those values forward. And that's the circle of what happens at the Lakes at El Segundo. There's a value system that is being handed down here, and it's extremely important, and it's integral to who we are in El Segundo. STEM education. We are preparing our children today for the careers of tomorrow. Science and technology clearly is in the DNA of this city, and we are committed to building STEM curriculum specifically into our programs. Specifically based on conversations that we have had with large local businesses here in El Segundo, we are excited about the prospect of partnering with leaders in this industry to provide even greater educational opportunities for our youth moving forward. Again, the Lakes at El Segundo is a golf course. I get that. It is an education center as well. And with the momentum that we have moving kids into golf, it's time for us to start looking at ways with which that facility can integrate even further into our community and start partnering with businesses, preparing our kids for the careers of tomorrow. The Education Foundation does more than anybody in the city by far. And our vision is about building greater education programs at the Lakes at El Segundo. We look forward to working with and supporting the Education Foundation in every way we possibly can. I'm going to turn it back over here and have a little discussion about the restaurant and banquet facilities.
Excellent. Thank you, Josh. Sorry to get the number of players wrong. This is another shot of our facility that we currently operate. This isn't looking out at the range, but this is looking back at the food and beverage experience. They're eating, having a beer, hitting shots, checking out the technology. Guess what? They're outside. Pretty outside. They're not in an enclosed environment where it's dark. There's bars all around. They're outside. They're having fun, coordinating. That F&B experience is enhanced. Fantastic. Involves golf. We're not open till 2 a.m. Shut it down 10:30 to 11. This, you'll get a feel for what we're envisioning on the patio. I talked a little bit about some of the improvements on the inside of the clubhouse, but on the outside, we're going to have upgraded lighting. We're going to have music. We're going to have an area where people can come in and play from an entertainment perspective. We're going to have fire pits, couches, more comfortable seating. Obviously, the fountain that's there and the water feature is going to be running. You'll be able to see it and hear it. The landscaping that's overgrown is going to be cut back so you can watch the people putt, chip, on what is now the 9th green, or you can look across and see them playing soccer or lacrosse on the athletic field. We're also going to focus on some group space. Right now you have a meeting room. We think it's underutilized. We don't think it's marketed very well. You also have what is now an outside storage room, which used to be a really nice little lanai for people to sit, eat, hang out. They've literally turned into storage. We're going to turn that back into what it was intended to be and increase the amount of space that we can host groups, community groups, and also groups and functions that are going to want to come out, use the practice facility, and obviously use the multi-sport field. I know a lot of the groups here talked about philanthropy. We've had, since 2011, world's largest golf outing. How many of you have heard of it? None. I'm sorry, we've done a terrible job. World's largest golf outing. We've actually partnered with the Golf Channel. They actually carry that event. One day, August 6th this year, a Monday, we have about 140 golfers that host an outing, or 140 golf courses that host an event. Proceeds from that event go to a charity. This last 2 years, it's been the Fisher House Foundation. Since 2011, we've raised $3.5 million through that event on that one day of golf. We've partnered with other people within the industry to do that. It's just not solely Billy Casper Golf, but it was our idea to create it. Mostly because our namesake, Billy Casper, he wasn't Air Force. He was Navy. But he spent a lot of time overseas, spending time with the troops. We're in war and conflict, things like that. Part of that value was to make sure we had a strong alliance with that. Me, I was just an Air Force brat. How many of you recognize that? One of the elements, we're going to be 100% focused on the community of El Segundo. What that includes is reduced rates, special programs for the residents. Residents, the community are going to be first. We're not going to have to worry about access, where you come out to hit a bucket of balls and you have to wait 2 to 4 hours. Not going to happen. Or if you do get to hit a bucket of balls at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, it's not going to cost you $40 for an hour. Proposed terms, these are our numbers. This is in detail in our proposal. But so this is high level. We've offered a 20-year lease with 2 5-year options. We've proposed spending $1.8 million in capital in the first 24 months, with an additional $200,000 of capitalization. Ongoing capital improvement fund will be 4% of all golf revenues. Minimum annual rent of $250,000 starting in year 2020. Participation in growth. We have percentage rent on all revenue, starting out at 13% on all golf revenue, greens fees, range fees, and 5% on all other categories, including instruction. The model's self-sustaining. It actually is not, it's a pretty good picture. It's much better than what you have today. It eliminates any financial burden or concern from the city. We do this throughout the country. We know how to underwrite these things. We know what to expect. Paul, previous life, did the same. We know that success is here. A little more detail on our rent, but over the 20-year period, about $11.6 million in rent and capital contributions. That is almost close to 50% of the proceeds from the property. Taking 50% of the proceeds from our business enterprise, that's going back to the city of El Segundo. I can't think of what calls for a greater partnership than that. I'm going to turn over to Paul Major.
So, good afternoon. So last night, in anticipation of this presentation and to close, we were contemplating preparing a slide in the same way that others have that would walk you through what the criteria were in the RFP and how we satisfied them. It said things like we would totally renovate the facility to make it 100% self-sustaining. And instead of the city having to pay a golf course management company to run it like today, we would pay you. We would pay you guaranteed rent and participation rent. And we would invest significant money and create a capital fund to make sure this asset is self-sustaining. As for the community involvement, our proposal isn't like what you've heard the last few days. I've had the good fortune to listen to them. They're exciting proposals. All of them are trying to figure out how they throw a bone to the city of El Segundo for the residents. That's not what our proposal is. We're not saying you can come at 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and hit for $10. We don't have these limited periods on limited parts of the facility. It's 100% for the city of El Segundo all the time. The plan doesn't require extensive amendments to the conditional use permit. It doesn't require us to be open till 2 a.m. It doesn't require us to get any changes to the existing grant deed. It complies 100% out of the gate. We've added the new soccer fields for the AYSO, for the kids, for the city. Our commitment to STEM is because we realize that this amenity is for the community, and as Josh said, it really begins with the kids over there, and we want to be a part of that. As for the experience and capability, obviously Billy Casper Golf has a long record of experience with municipalities. They've done all of this many times. Josh is your local expert. He's been here 20 years. He's taught everyone's kids. He's a Cub Scout leader in El Segundo. It doesn't get more local than that. I've been in this market, golf market, for 25 years. I worked with a few of the guys sitting in the back row here for many years. All of my kids have learned how to play golf at the lakes. I've been a customer since day one. But we didn't prepare that slide, because at the end of the day, what we think it comes down to are these two very, very different paths. And we understand that the council will be making the decision. You'll, of course, be advising them. And rather than show you a slide that says that, what we want to end with is to tell you that our core value is not to be edgy. That's not what we're about. We're not trying to use the lakes as a platform to grow our business in Asia. That's what we just heard from the prior group. Our values and direction are reflected in this video that we want to show you to close the presentation, and then we'll take questions.
A junior golfer may take small steps, but with the right direction, they can travel to big places. Junior Golf for Life Day was created in an effort to share our amazing game with the next generation of youth in ways that are fun, challenging, and informative. So when they walk away at the end of the day, they are already looking forward to that next opportunity to come back for more. It doesn't matter if you're a 5-year-old kid picking up that club for the first time, attempting that first putt, feeling what it is to truly get a hold of one, or 10 years old, having played the game a while, but wanting to improve skills, curious what it might be like to play in a tournament, a league, or on a school team, or even an accomplished player preparing for the possibility of playing collegiate golf, and perhaps far beyond. It turns out there are some amazing facilities that embrace junior development, talented instructors and innovative academies that offer programs, dedicated volunteers and families, and supportive organizations committed to making sure that they are healthy, well-equipped, and well-prepared for that journey as it happens. Remember, good swings happen, one shot at a time, one step at a time.
that concludes our presentation. We're open for questions.
All right, thank you so much for that. Questions? All right, let me ask, pricing-wise, do you envision the range prices to be increased or the green fees to be increased? What's it going to cost? What's the difference in price?
I think our proposal overall, rather than going through each of the various rates, called for probably between a 2 and 4% increase out of the gate. I think actually I take that back. It's 5% in year one. Then after that, it's about 2% in the out years. I think we showed that compounded growth on an annual basis. If it's in the details of the pro formas that we submitted, because I think we submitted pretty detailed pro formas, you can look and see what that is. If not, we can provide that. But
okay.
It's pretty nothing drastic. It's taking existing pricing, and it might be 2 to 5%.
All right. And then let me ask you about, I'm on page 44, the minimum rent. Starting in 2020, 250 minimum rent, which includes the golf revenue share and other revenue share paid for each calendar year. So that means the revenue share is, it's not 250 base plus revenue share on top of that. You're saying it's 250 including the revenue share.
That's correct. Every element of our rent is percentage rent.
Okay.
13%, starting out at 13 and 5, but we're guaranteeing the city that base rent. So there is no minimum rent. I apologize.
Right.
I'm confusing the issue. There is no base rent component in our proposal.
There's no minimum rent. You're saying the estimate is the percentages you're offering is going to be 250 and then go up from there.
I'm sorry.
There is a minimum rent.
Oh, if you could just speak in the microphone, because
I apologize. The minimum rent.
Talking to sorry, the guy not in the microphone. You're doing.
Oh, I apologize. Minimum rent is $250,000 for each calendar year starting in 2020.
Okay. And then on page 44, if the sum of the golf revenue share and other revenue share paid to the city for each calendar year starting in 2020 does not equal the $250,000, Lakes Partners will pay the city the difference before March 1st immediately following year.
That's correct.
So explain what that means to me.
So we're assuming, or we're guaranteeing the city that you're going to collect at least $250,000
no matter what.
Every year, no matter what. If we've got to come out of our pockets, we'll do it.
Okay, great. And then, hold on. The proposal, like, I appreciate we've got 3 individuals, Billy Casper, but the lease will be signed by a new LLC.
We're Billy Casper Golf will be responsible for the lease. We will create a new entity, potentially with ourselves and Paul Major.
Okay, so
the way well, go ahead. Why don't you?
The new entity will sign the lease, and Billy Casper will be a part of it.
Okay.
So you'll be able to rely on their credit.
Gotcha. So it's going to be a separate entity, the Lakes Partners LLC, that you'll create with the 3 of you, but Billy Casper and your experience will be combined in the new entity.
Exactly right.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. What else?
Can I ask a question while you're looking for your question?
Please.
So I'm still a little bit confused. I got the fact that it's $250,000 a year minimum. I don't understand the 13%, 5% shared revenue. Is that above and beyond the $250,000?
Since I'm struggling with these questions, turn it over to Paul. I'm usually really good at questions.
To the extent that the percentages on those revenue streams add up to a number greater than 250,000, you will get the greater number. And so if it adds up to less than that, you will nevertheless get the 250,000. So there's a minimum no matter what. And then if we do better, you will have a percentage of the growth, so you will get additional rent.
In addition to 250,000
Yeah.
or?
Yes,
okay.
yes, in addition to the 250,000. And in the pro forma, in the RFP, you'll see, if you look at the numbers, it will show you with various levels of performance what that amounts to in rent. There's a specific line. I don't have it, but I can point it to you if you ask me where it is. Yeah. But that's the concept. Minimum, no matter what, 250. If the place does better and those percentages applied to the various revenues add up to more than that, you get more than the 250.
But do you get the difference out of the 250, or you get?
No.
Okay, so it's whatever. So it's 250,000 or 13%, whichever is greater.
Correct.
Got it.
And then additionally, there is a capital improvement fund.
Correct.
And that's 4% of all golf, or just golf revenue?
Golf revenue.
And you have that in your pro forma starting the year 2022.
Correct. And the concept with that is we're going to put in $1.8 million.
Right.
You can totally fix this place up for that kind of money. I mean, I've listened to the other proposals and I've done this for a long time, and it can be really good, totally fixed up the way it's meant to be. The idea behind these CapEx funds is that you've got a pool of money that's dedicated, that's there to go back into it. In past years, there were a lot of municipalities that never did that, and those places just had the paint sucked off the walls. And so this is meant to be, let's fix it up, let's make it what it's supposed to be, and let's make sure it stays there.
So that's the fund to maintain and keep it going, so you can make improvements as you go on.
Exactly.
And that's above and beyond the rent that
Correct.
you're offering. Okay. Great.
Let me add one.
Sure.
One thing to that capital improvement fund is that the city would approve any of those capital improvements. So.
Okay.
I have a question. Can you clarify or kind of walk us through, so the day the keys are turned over, as far as the timing, how you see the field being built, the range improvements, the golf course? It's not going to all be simultaneous, but what's the timeline, I guess, or sequence of events, better way to put it?
You're there to bail me out, right? We envision focusing, so there'll be kind of a three-pronged approach. There'll be some permitting that needs to happen as it relates to the driving range, practice area. There'll be some permitting associated with the soccer field, multi-purpose field. We think minimal, if any, permitting needed for the golf course. So the golf course work could happen rather quickly. The other two are just going to be dependent on those permits, working with the city on our plans. Say, is this what you want? This is your asset. We're making those improvements, so you have to be involved and provide input on those. And as soon as we can get permits ready, we want to make sure time of year, but we'll get to work. I think we can get it all done in 18 to 24 months. From a golf course standpoint, we'd like to try to keep as much of the golf course open as possible, although it could possibly go down to an 8-hole or 7-hole golf course for 60 or 90 days. So we're not talking about a 6-month shutdown or a 9-month shutdown while everything's ripped up. And during that, we'll also make sure that we work with the city to talk about that timing. So, for example, we're making changes on the golf course, which we think will happen first. We also want to make sure that probably the driving range will be second, then soccer last.
You mentioned lighting the soccer field. Any plans to light the golf course itself?
In our current thinking, no, although we think it's a great idea. Wanted to get some feedback from the city on whether or not they thought that was a good idea. And it's one of the reasons why we've put forth the capital dollars we have to go focus on that. In addition to that, what we've done, Paul in his previous role, me in my role, a lot of those capital dollars can also then go finance. If you look at our numbers, they show about $60,000 to $80,000 a year of capital contribution going into a fund. If you see a project that costs more than that, you don't just have to do it on a cash basis. You can actually go do more than that, finance it, and those payments will then fund, call it a 5-year lease or a 5-year loan on some of those improvements. If you want to do a $300,000 improvement, don't have that money in the bank, take a loan out for that and use those funds to pay for it. That's typically how we do that with municipalities.
Okay. And then logistically, how do you envision the multi-use soccer field being used? Is that you're going to say the parks are going to book that and take care of that?
Josh, I know you want to talk about that, or?
I mean, as far as we will definitely work with the park direct. I mean, that's the initial part was preferred pricing and preferred access for El Segundo AYSO. As we get further into it with discussions with Park and Rec staff, we want to make sure that field usage is, the AYSO seasons. I've talked to the the folks at AYSO, obviously, and Barry, yeah, that's the priority. If you've got times and specific needs that we want to make sure are a priority to the city, that's a focus. And then as we understand where some of that fits in, then we'll open it up for other uses.
Okay, so you could rent that space for all these soccer clubs and do other things with it.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
We anticipate that the fields would be used all day, every day, because there's such demand and field space use problems in our cities and in our high school communities.
Right? That football fields, they're playing soccer there every
That's
day.
right. So we will support having an extra field, but we want to make sure that who gets first right of we have a problem is the city of El Segundo and AYSO.
Okay, but it's part of the lease. Basically, you're leasing it from us, and then you're going to schedule that soccer field. That's not going to be a Parks and Rec burden or anything.
No,
You'll take care of that.
Absolutely not your burden.
Okay.
But you have some discretion about
you'll give preference.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Have you addressed the parking situation there with the soccer field plus the golf and the driving range? Total parking?
In the rendering, which I guess if I have the clicker,
because you didn't see an improvement on the parking.
They're going to expand it a little bit.
All right. If you look at the multi-purpose field where the field gets situated, there is space there to add parking. There is also, obviously, as it all gets assessed, there is also additional parking, I believe, in the initial Top Golf deal that was available if we were willing to spend the money to renovate that space. So we know that there is additional land available for parking, and we'll make sure that we have it.
I'll also add, just as it relates to those fields, we have a group, division of Billy Casper Golf, which is a PR and media agency. That agency has 3 clients. One, Sports Turf Managers Association, that handle all the turf for MLB, NFL. In addition to that, U.S. Club Soccer is a client of ours. And in addition, most recently, Steel Sports, based in Hermosa, founded by Warren Lichtenstein, is also a client of ours. So we should have several resources that we can lean on and people we can talk to, focus on making sure we get the right facility built.
Right. Any other questions? Anyone? Staff, anything? Carol? All right. Thank you so much for coming and giving the presentation. It was really nice. I appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, our next scheduled presentation is at 4 p.m., so I'll make a motion to recess until 4 p.m.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, next up is going to be CSC Golf, LLC at 4. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. We are back from our recess with our final presentation of the day from CSC Golf, LLC. So please, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, committee members. My name is Jim Bellows, and this is my partner, Mark Stevens. We're the team for CSC Golf. We have a local presence here in Southern California with 8 different properties, a mixture of properties from private to municipal. We have extensive municipal experience in other states. We brought our team to show you our team and our local presence. The far right is Todd Behringer. He's an operations expert and former PGA Tour member. In the blue is Paul Zarimba, golf course superintendent. He runs our regional area, so he's available at all times for the agronomy work. With him is Will Harris. He's our project manager and operations supervisor down in Inland Empire, Menifee Lakes, and Seven Hills. On my right is Robin Casey, the project manager here in El Segundo for our team at the Lakes, and his partner and friend, CEO of TGA, Josh Jacobs. So that's our team. All of the people that support golf left, but we're still here about the golf, not about the big box entertainment stores. And I'll leave it to Mark to talk a little bit more about our vision. Start there.
Well, as Jim said, first, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, selected into the final 5. As Billy Casper's group pointed out, it really is about 2 different paths. We started to think about asking that question up front, but we're the golf people. We operate golf courses, we own golf courses, we lease golf courses, we manage golf courses, all in Southern California. Our focus is entirely we've built teams to be able to interact and build on the needs of the community. We're not going to fly from one coast to another. We're here every day. We'll have a team that's here every day, not just a manager. So with that kind of presence, we feel like the city's best interests will be served, day-to-day operations, bank, and the property's well taken care of. So that's the type of experience that we feel like. The out of the box for us is an opportunity to bring Josh Jacobs and his amazing programs with TGA to the forefront. I've known Josh for a number of years. I actually own a franchise in the Temecula Valley area where we operate in the public schools out throughout Temecula, Menifee, and Murrieta area. We have no golf courses there, but we're in the schools, and we've been in golf courses. Amazing programs. Combined with what Josh Alpert does, we think that we would have something very difficult for anyone in the United States to compete with.
Some other members that aren't here in the package, you saw a reference to Doug Fredrickson. He's been one of the foremost golf course clubhouse architects in the United States. I've worked with Doug for over 30 years. Also, Bill Phillips is a landscape architect and a golf course architect. So Bill is the one that's helped us with some of the planning, the green locations, the tee locations, that. He's been instrumental also in working on some driving ranges for a company called Big Shots, and they incorporate short game areas. So, you know, what Josh Alpert and his team are missing is enough space to do the job that they'd like to do. So we're encouraging a larger short game and a larger practice area to accomplish that. Your first question, when you invited us to this presentation, is about our vision. Our vision is very similar to what the Casper team is talking about. We want to accomplish as much as we can on behalf of the city. You had a list of improvements that you'd like to see done for the benefit of the constituents. We know that you're concerned that there's a strong sentiment with the stakeholders and constituents in this area to keep traditional golf. And you have obviously you have a big choice between traditional golf and the big box opportunity that's in front of you. The capital improvement list that we'll get into in more detail satisfies a lot of the upgrades to the amenities that you'd like. The multi-user programs is the expansion of what Good Swings happens, and Josh has been able to accomplish, and that we're going to create more elbow room to expand those programs. The championship service is really in part what Mark just mentioned about having a local team that's available all the time. And we all have training manuals, we all have a lot of tools to train employees, but direct supervision and hands-on is the approach that we feel still is one of the most satisfactory. And finally, the long-term sustainability is that we're not trying to change the facility. All the other proposers, including Casper, are reducing the golf course. They're reducing the green grass, they're reducing the acreage. That hurts the revenue opportunities for the city and for the facility. Our belief is that we need to enhance the existing golf facility and keep the green grass there. We're worried about parking space. I think that when you have soccer teams switching out and the parking lot confusion, I just think it's going to inhibit some of the support for food and beverage and the golf operation. So we feel like our bid is the only bid that's truly looking at golf only. Go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry. So the long-term sustainability, also the one point I didn't mention about the long-term sustainability is the fact that we're only asking initially for a 20-year term without making drastic changes to the property. Our phase 2 investment in a larger building and another $3 million investment would be the trigger that would give us the extension that we'd like to have in the future. So the sustainability in combination with the kind of programs that TGA can present, I think is in conjunction with Josh and his Good Swings Happens, I think gives us a more well-rounded, complete proposal. At this time, I'd like to have Josh Jacobs, come up and speak a little bit about the TGA programs.
Ever, Josh? No redhead jokes either. So TGA will manage the programming aspects at the lakes. And for those of you who aren't familiar with TGA, TGA stands for Teach, Grow, Achieve. TGA was born here in El Segundo. We've been here in the city for 13 years. And since then, we've grown to run
over 3,700 school and golf facility programs in 30 states around the United States. 2 of our first 10 schools that we ever ran were at Richmond and Center Street, right here in El Segundo. To date, we have introduced and taught over 850,000 kids the game of golf. Southern California PGA, the experts in golf, they own and they operate our programs, as do multiple PGA professionals throughout the United States. Now, just like we all joked about, there are certainly a number of Joshes here just in El Segundo in the junior golf community, and both of us respect each other greatly. As Josh said, this facility is about playing, learning, and practicing the game of golf. But we view it as much more. TGA is revolutionizing the way that golf is taught as we merge academics with athletics. And we engage families through understanding how and why the game is played. Although there are some recent believers in STEM, we were the first. We were the first golf program to implement STEM in junior golf programs. In fact, STEM is no longer STEM, it's STEAM. There's an A for art, and we incorporate that as well. We did it before the first tee, and we did it with the most notable group. We partnered with them who are well ahead of the education curve in this respect. It's the Tiger Woods Foundation. They are above and beyond the best at the game. But Josh is right. This facility has a tremendous amount of momentum. I mean, all the support that left here was not just for Josh's group and Billy Casper, but it was for our proposal as well. This is about a golf facility. I sit on the World Golf Foundation board. I'm the catalyst to golf adopting the United States Olympic Committee's American Development Model for Juniors. I sit on the SCPGA Foundation and the Player Development Board, and I started the TGA Sports Foundation. I recognize that your decision is not an easy one. Talk about the different roads, everyone's going to bring it up. You have 2 decisions to make. The first being the type of facility that you envision, and the second being about the group to execute that vision. If the city needs money, if it absolutely needs money, and you want the headache, and you want to gamble on the current fad in the golf industry, then by all means, you should pick Drive Shack, Topgolf, or Flying T. You should. It's like bowling in the 90s. Bowling was stagnant. And then what did they do? They added fun lights, they added games, they added full bars, they added TVs, and they changed the experience. And what happened? Bowling spiked. And then 5 years later, slowly but surely, their numbers dropped back down. That's kind of what you're looking at here, except in a much higher stake with much more money. Topgolf says it's edgy. I realize that they are, but is that really our community? I live here, we work here. Is that really who we are? That's definitely something for you guys to consider. But as the game of golf that I know, the future of golf is short courses. It really is, with social components that tie into a facility for all ages and abilities. The other concepts, the other 3, they don't do that. Drive Shack, Topgolf, and Flying T have said that they are going to concentrate on the millennials, and that's not the regulars at the lakes. That's not your constituents. The future of golf is the lakes facility. When you look at the 2 visions, 2 different roads that you can take, and then when you pick the right one for this community and for the game of golf, we're here to tell you today, with our presentation, our vision, why we differ from Billy Casper.
Thank you, Josh. We're going to try to follow the criteria that you outlined in the RFP. So what follows will be the financial impact, the experience and capability, community involvement, business plan, and capital improvement. I know you all can read, but it helped me a lot to do that. But we'd like to discuss each one separately. Mark, you want to get up and start with the financial impact?
One of the main concerns anytime that there's a change in a facility, especially golf, especially with children and seniors, is the pricing. Our plans are not to jack the prices way up with this. We want to improve the golf course greatly. We think that that will make it more sustainable. You can improve that golf course and not spend a fortune on it. We think that the amount of money that we're talking about will accomplish the needs across the board. You're going to have what you wanted initially, what the Chevron goal was. At the same time, all the people that are enjoying that are only going to enjoy it more and further it when those children become the seniors, parents of the new kids that are playing, which Josh has seen that. When you look at those pictures, they're very compelling. Having been in some locations, as Jim has for many decades, we've had that opportunity to see junior golfers become members of our staffs, leaders in the community. It's pretty compelling. With the type of money that we want to spend, we think that we can accomplish every single thing on your list, be on our list as well, because we think that you really nailed it. Things that the city's looking for that you laid out in the RFP was the exact same assessment that we had of the property. So we feel so aligned, it's very easy for us to move forward with you. Jim can start to talk about some of the benefits.
Financially, we differ from the Billy Casper proposal in that we're offering more money in capital improvements for golf. They're offering money for soccer field and multi-purpose field. We don't feel that if this is going to be a golf facility with limited parking, that you could have a mixed-use facility. We'd like to keep the golf course the way it is. What concerns us a little bit, too, about the reduction in the size of the golf course is that Mr. Major is one of the owners of Westchester. Westchester is our major, or the major competitor for the Lakes. So what is the motivation? What's going to push Mr. Major and Casper Golf to drive golf revenue and activities at the Lakes if you're the owner of Westchester? The capital improvement budget, like the Billy Casper proposal, we're offering 3%. But our 3% is of gross revenues. Their 4% was of golf only. So in the first 10 years, their pro forma and our pro forma, we're contributing $90,000 more than they're contributing to capital improvements. Again, we all do a lot of the same things, so we can definitely put a ditto sign under a lot of what the Casper team said about how we apply the capital improvement. But it's important to have capital improvement budget that the city can approve, that they are involved in. The slight difference in our agreement is that we typically pay for any repairs or things like that for $2,000 or less. We don't come running to the city every time something breaks and we want to dip into the capital improvement fund. We typically only come to the city for an approval for spending on significant equipment, improvements, HVAC, problems that happen. Want to take the business part?
Some of the things that we've had great success with, we have a property in San Diego on Point Loma that's a 9-hole historic par 3 course. Over the course of since May of 14, we've grown our revenues there by over $500,000. It's a 9-hole golf course. Our average fee is $11.86. We didn't make that growth with golf. We made it with activities around the golf course. We made one capital improvement. We built a deck, very much like the beautiful area that's outside the lakes now. But what we did is we started to get people very involved. We've done painting and wine. We've had concerts. We've had wedding vows exchanged. We have had
not you and me. You said we.
So no, it's been amazing how that little golf course has been such an integral part of the city of San Diego and the community of Point Loma. And we have found that schools and the different charities that we've worked with, they make as much money, if not more, for the charity. It only takes a couple of hours to play, including the after golf awards or meals. So that shorter time, as Josh Jacobs mentioned, we really believe the future's in shorter golf courses. See a lot of parallels there. I think that there's a lot of things that have been huge successes for us at the Loma Club in San Diego. We can apply directly to the lakes at El Segundo.
So moving to the next slide. In your evaluation criteria, you talk about experience and capabilities. Unfortunately, I've got more years in the business than some of those other folks, and I'm still standing, so that's a good thing. But I was actually in the early 70s a manager at Westchester, and there were 8 golf courses for American Golf then. A gentleman named Mike Carroll was the PGA professional, and I managed the Westchester shop. Mike had all the golf shops for American Golf. So we also had it wasn't called the Lakes then, but we had the Sepulveda driving range at that time. And we did a lot of business out of that shop offering free lessons, and there was a lot of traffic. So my history goes back that far. I'm a Southern California person. I grew up doing golf in Southern California. I relocated to Arizona some time back, but I have a permanent residence down in San Diego area because we have 4 properties in that area, and Mark has 4 properties in a similar area. So we have a local presence, a strong local presence of 8 different golf courses.
When it comes to the established relationship, one of the things that we thought was important about our presentation is I've had the opportunity to work for American Golf. I was a member of that before Paul, but from 95 to 2000. When I moved in 2005 to take over the Loma Club that I mentioned, that's about the time that I met Josh Jacobs. And I met him because as the owner of that golf course, the leasehold owner, I had a TGA franchise owner come to me, a married couple, and they asked if they could be involved with our property to bring the juniors. We let them do that. It was a tremendous success, very much an eye-opener to me to see how many families came with TGA. It was incredible. It led me to buy a franchise in the area that my wife and I live. She's a school teacher, and she basically runs that program in her side time. But what they bring to the table is so completely unique. When we talk about the struggles in golf, PGA is the most grassroots you can get. We've got pre-K kids taking golf classes all the way through middle schools where the separate program will take them right into high school golf. It's made a feeder. We have PGA league teams, the junior league teams that have become so popular, and the TGA programs match that, and it becomes a feeder. High school coaches and the middle school coaches get very excited about seeing kids with that skill level that quickly because it's fun. So we feel like Josh, and Robin, and our team, we're all right here locally. We have the ability to be here every day. And we have a real team. We've been actually functioning. We didn't assemble a dream team for a proposal.
I'd like to have Robin Casey come up. He's a resident of El Segundo, and I'd like him to address the category of community impact.
Hello again. So you asked how our proposal impacts the community, and you've heard we're part of this community. So you've heard from Josh about TGA and Jim and Mark about being local operators. My children both attend Centre Street School. My daughter swims for Alpha Aquatics, and she represents the city there, and we even made the front of the Herald before now. So, you know, we're part of this community. You see our face at events. More importantly, we know what it's like to be part of the community through sport. And you'll hear a lot about the history of all the companies ourselves. You'll hear about the experience of the proposers. But I want to let you know how our plan and our vision really impacts the community going forward, and how that changes the future. I'm sure all of you have heard in the past that business is done on the golf course, and that's true, because people use the golf course to connect, and people from all walks of life play, and they share the common interest, and that in itself is a community. What we want to do is let you realize that that stood the test of time. Golf has been around for a long time. I'm not sure that gamifying golf will still be here in 10 or 20 years, but golf itself has, and those of you who've played the lakes, you'll know that the best target game that you can play is trying to hit the tractor when they collect the balls. You know, it's what we do, and if you're part of this community, you'll know that. And what we want to do is we want to say that this is a Parks and Recs facility before anything else, and golf is just a vehicle to keep the community together. And we did the due diligence on the lakes. At TGA, we run multi-sports. We looked at using it as a different type of facility and incorporating tennis. We work with the USTA, or bringing other sports like soccer and lacrosse in. And we didn't feel it was right for the original deed purpose or for what we're trying to achieve with the community. Our goal is really to go beyond the golf at the lakes and tie the west side of support, if we can say that, or PCH now as we've changed it, back to in touch with the facility. And how we're going to do that is we're looking at free programs in the school, working with the Ed Foundation, working with the schools directly, taking the fantastic TGA programs into the schools. We're interested in growing the game. We're interested in tying this community back up with the facility. So that's one of our main things of really bridging the gap between the residents and the facility. And beyond the youth programs, the same with the senior groups, working with community groups for fundraising events, working with the Kiwanis, working with the Ed Foundation again for events where we can raise money. Understanding that we have our office locally, that we are the faces, unfortunately, that you'll see all the time at the facility, we get to know the local needs, and we really understand the community issues that exist and problems that need to be overcome. My wife sends me at 5 a.m. to put my blanket down on July 4th. So, we understand that the small things that matter when you live in El Segundo. And for the course, our plan is a phase plan. And the reason being is the community's evolved in the time that I've lived here, and it will continue to evolve, as has the facility. And we don't know in 10 years how that's going to look. And it gives us the public forum to be able to consult and give the city and the public a voice on how we phase 2 and phase 3 this development. We don't build a $40 million facility that we're stuck with for 50 years. We're looking at evolving it and primarily keeping it as a park and rec facility, however that looks for our community. Beyond golf, what are we doing? We are going to connect with the businesses. We're talking about the El Segundo Brewery. You're talking about the local suppliers that can benefit from our relationship. We're talking about exploring the areas of the course that won't be impacted by the invasiveness, but having buckwheat planted so that we can try and draw the butterfly into new habitats and support conservation elements, and also use that as a teaching moment to get people back up there into the community and working on things at a level that the kids can get involved with. There's employment opportunities, training programs that we look at. We do a lot through TGA. Josh is a mentor for Tiger Woods Foundation, and through these different avenues that we have, we can involve the high school students as coaches for the younger students. We can offer multiple programs that involve the community in a way beyond playing the game of golf. So what's our value in this? It's the community relationships that we have. We foster transparency. We look at best value for our consumers, and then most of all, how it impacts the community. And I think if you're going to compare us to Billy Casper, that's the value that we bring. The other three, as we've talked about, are a different path. We're the face that you're going to have to deal with if you pick us, so we'll be around and we'll continue to help grow the lakes and connect with the community. And I'm grateful to be part of the team that really wants to maintain the integrity of the facility, that wants to retain the authenticity of the game of golf and work with the community. So to go through our plan of how we're going to do that, I'll pass you back on to Mark and Jim, and they'll go through that with you. Thank you.
Again, to repeat, our business plan is quite simple. We wanted to give the city exactly what they asked for in the RFP, the best way we can. We want to protect the asset. We want to grow the golf. We want to add more instruction areas. We want to embrace the existing programs. We've spoken with Josh Albert. He's got a great program. We want to have him on our team. And I think whatever golf team, whether you pick Casper or us, obviously Josh is a community resident and he wants to stay and be involved, and we're happy to have that happen. And part of our plan in our renovations, we have minimum disruption during the renovation. We're trying to maintain as much green space as possible by maintaining the integrity of the golf course. And again, I'm going to repeat, the integrity of the golf course is very important in the revenue generation, which is going to make the facility successful. We do have programs not dissimilar to any of the other companies regarding discounts for residents, preferred access, and all the different benefits that would come with for the local residents. Since we're running a little bit out of time, I'm going to move quickly into the next section, capital improvements. Our list that you saw in the proposal listed our capital improvements for golf at $1.5 million. The competitors are at $1.1 million for their capital improvements in golf. In our program, if you look at the list, we've satisfied the most of the wish list that the city had. We also did not include leased equipment as an expenditure in our list, where our competitor did include maintenance equipment and a few things that normally would be leased and not purchased. Our approach to the driving range is a lot greater in our capital improvement plan, in that we're adding a lot more space. We're building a turf tee as you requested. We're expanding to the north. We're moving the entire fence quite a ways. There was a lot of question about the length of the golf course, so we've left in our proposal dollars to extend the fence to the east if that can be approved. So we're trying to create the length that everybody wanted. We're trying to create the turf range that everybody wanted. And we're going to build a larger hitting bay, golf instruction, demo club facility on the north part of the driving range. Bogey, made a bogey. Talked about the amenities. I got in the green grass, the short game, the blue butterfly conservation, the free school programming in conjunction with TGA. We're going to be able to provide advanced programs both at the facility and away from the facility, which I think will be very helpful for the youth programming. The expanded short game area that we're talking about is not too different from what Casper is proposing, although I believe because we're moving the driving range fence further, our short game area will be larger. What we noticed in the Casper proposal is, and I know there's a lot of similarities in our proposals, but when they move the northern fence on the driving range, they're forcing the hitting direction towards the southern fence. They're not capturing the depth of the driving range and the ability to use normal golf balls versus limited flight balls. So we felt that by truly expanding the driving range without sacrificing very much turf on the golf course side is fine. We do make an adjustment to the ninth hole, similar to what they did. The way our ninth hole is positioned is very safe. I'm a little bit worried in their rendering that their ninth hole has balls landing just to the north of the green on the other adjacent green there. So that could be a little bit of a liability. Additionally, in our improvements, we considered the liabilities for the city. The Sepulveda fence needs to be done. That's a big hazard. One of the fences on the golf course is in our proposal to repair, which I think is important. So the additional $400,000 that we're spending in capital improvements, again, are going to enhance the whole purpose of the facility to grow the game, grow golf, expand Josh Alpert's program, expand the TGA experience. The additional part of our proposal that's a little bit different is that we're offering another $3 million for a new building up and a new facility up by the driving range where we can promote more sales on the driving range, where they have a direct contact, food and beverage, entertainment, more millennials. Yes, there's a lot of fantastic software out there. There's a lot of games. There's a lot of terrific things going on, just like Joe previously said. So we think that if our program works for the first 10 years, we should be able to start a program or a design program that you would approve for a much larger building there. Part of what TGA would like to do in their growth is to occupy that space, add more programs. We would take the existing clubhouse and expand it for youth learning and probably have the golf starter down there, but the whole golf shop, the restaurant, everything would be more intimate with the driving range. Since I'm running out of time, let's talk about the driving or the improvements that we have. Excuse me. This is the large fence that we're going to move. We've worked with Dan Judge, who does primarily all the golf course netting around. Dan has given us an estimate. Oops, I hit the wrong button. Dan has given us an estimate that moving this whole fence line, the A section there would be about $150,000. The B section, the ninth hole that we were talking about, it comes down to this green, similar to where it is, and that green is going to connect into the new short game area and the extended putting green. Section C is something that hasn't been added because we're doing an all-turf tee line here. We need a nursery to replace the turf. So we have an area planned to grow turf and be able to keep Section E full of fresh turf. That would be used primarily for instruction. There would be opportunities for the public to use the turf area at certain times, and that might be at a premium. D, the short game area, is bunkers down here that come into play a little bit off this tee, but doubtful. So we have bunkers going short and long, and we had this bunker here so that people could practice fairway bunker shots out to the driving range. The E section is the new grass tee, which I've already mentioned. The F section is we're expanding the building greatly, not just 2 little demonstration hitting bays, but we want to have more indoor instruction. The physical training space is important, but we want to have indoor space that's very sufficient for multi-use at the same time. The building G is the new putting green in the chipping area. H is the expanded short game area, which we've talked about. I is the new synthetic turf targets, and this is a sequencing of targets that is adapted by top Big Shots Golf. And we put this in because in the future, with our future development in phase 2, we may want to go to a gaming situation on part of the driving range. K, what's that? Covered. Well, I'll get there. Just a second. The K portion is we do the bunkers and the tees out on the golf course as planned. And then the other thing that we're adding is L. Besides having the rain protection down below as requested by the city, we're covering the upper tier driving range. A lot of folks like the shade. They like it. And me having skin cancer, I like it. But that is an important feature that's not added. The M makes a lot of sense, and I know that the team Casper did this also. I mean, we were astounded to see how busy the driving range is with one ball machine down here when you have a double-decked line and no place to get golf balls. So we want to expand the opportunity for people to buy balls or use balls up in the M area. N is the existing short game area, which we would expand also as requested by the city. And you're up, Mark. I have a conclusion for you. Ran a little bit over, I apologize.
That's all right.
Before you ask your questions, we just again want to really let you know how much we are very committed to this project, not just financially, but as a team and ready to hit the ground running. These people that are here today, these are actually resources that are just a drive down the street. It's not we need to fly somebody in from somewhere else. So we think that we probably, if you choose golf, should be your best choice. That's what we do. That's why we're in the business and own it. We only have 8 golf courses. We don't have 158. And that seems to be more than enough for us to really focus on and be able to give the owners, the municipalities, all of our attention. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both, all three of you. Thank you. I have a couple of questions. Anyone else want to start? Let's go through the basic numbers of what the rents are the city will realize and how that's structured.
In the pro forma, in the first year, construction year, we figure revenues will be down. So we've guaranteed a minimum rent of $200,000. The next year, our minimum rent goes to $250,000, and after that, our minimum rent goes to $300,000 a year. So in the first 10 years, when you look at the total rent that we pay versus the total rent that they pay, it's very similar. But we're paying a higher percentage of gross revenue. I believe we're paying on an average in 10 years, 12.8% of total gross revenue goes to rent, and it's guaranteed rent. It's not a percentage here, percentage there. It could go up and down. I know the city's had a problem with the facility for the last couple of years of lost revenue. Well, that can happen. And the Casper pro forma looks wonderful, but they're progressing growth every year forever. And I've been doing this for a long time, and I think Carol over here will attest. Golf business doesn't go up exponentially every year. It's going to be some ups and downs. So the problem with the percentage rent concept is, yes, there's a high. It's a greater than, as Lily was asking about, but there's an opportunity that it won't get over $250,000. And again, we have to wonder what's going to drive revenue at the lakes. We believe it's a complete golf course. We don't believe an operator that owns Westchester should operate the lakes, because where's the motivation going to be? The other aspect of the capital improvement that I mentioned a little bit earlier is, while we're offering 3%, they're offering 4%. We're offering 3% of a bigger pie. They're offering 4% of a smaller pie. Our projections were very conservative. We looked at the trends, and we're trying to take the existing business model that's been successful and should be successful and just put incremental small gains. We're trying to shoot low and come in high. We're not trying to give you a dream pro forma and then underperform. We wanted to give something that's realistic and that can be accomplished. And in doing that, our rent structure as compared to our competitor is not that different.
All right, and then your plan, you're not envisioning needing any additional parking than what's already there?
Not at all.
Okay.
Unless, and if you go with the other bid, I'd like to have the valet, the parking valet, when everybody's going in and out. That might be a good concession.
Any questions, Lee? No? Lee? You guys have gone silent on me late in the afternoon, haven't you?
I'm impressed everybody's still awake.
Just real quick, I had one. On this, you point out B. Is that a second fence off the ninth hole there?
Well,
the line you're drawing above B.
The entire north fence, the A line, would be moved. We're not quite sure, depending on the exposure to errant balls, but we believe it'll be 60 or 70 yards over. So we're moving the entire fence. The problem that the facility has now, the tees up here are not usable because of errant balls hitting them because the driving range is so short. What we're not sure about, what you requested, is working with the city and expanding the length of the range. And we have it in our bid. We put a budget to do that of, I think, $50,000 in our plan to lengthen the fence if possible, if it can get approved. I believe you need an easement up there to do that.
Well, it's got Southern California Edison easement,
right,
because they run high tension, high voltage lines.
Well, I think we could put a fence that wouldn't interfere with that.
I wouldn't be able to hit the power line anyway, so.
I know the feeling. Come on up, Josh.
If I can just add one little thing. You know, oops. Where's the clicker? There it is. Item G here, I think, is really important. We talk about short game area, but what we're trying to do here is more than short game. For those of you who know the trends of the industry, Bandon Dunes, Pinehurst, you got all these short courses that are coming out. But also we have a unique opportunity here in El Segundo to be different, something that you can't do with the other proposals based on the facility restraints that they'll have with what they're proposing. And this is a punch bowl green. For those of you who don't know what a punch bowl green is, it's a very, you know what it is. It's a very large green with big undulations, and it's just for social purposes. And that's a big part of this community. A big part of this community is activating people socially, that your round doesn't have to end or start with golf on the golf course, is that it can be part of the experience. That's where golf is headed. Golf is headed towards experiences. And so I think with the flow that we're going to have with the ball machines and making it easy and efficient for people to come and experience either the driving range or the golf course, along with the social aspect of this punch bowl green, is a unique feature that nobody else put forth. And we feel like this has great potential for the city and the community to utilize, whether it be with corporate parties, whether it be with family nights, whatever it is. And I just think it's something unique that the golf industry is moving towards that could really benefit and be unique for us.
You made a comment about how your group would pay for expenses that were like $5,000 or $10,000 before you ran to the city for the capital fund.
Yeah, usually what happens when we have an arrangement with a CapEx reserve or deposit, what the asset owner, the city or the owner of the golf club wants, they want to make sure that that reserve is protected for important things like HVAC, or the fence goes down on Sepulveda, it needs to be done, major equipment purchases, things like that. They don't want the operator to run off and deplete the reserve by fixing things, putting filters in an air conditioner or fixing a toilet or doing small things. So what we've done in our contracts is we usually set a minimum that we're not going to request a capital improvement expenditure unless it's over $2,000. The rest of that becomes operating expenses, whatever the problem is. A crack in the concrete, a broken door, whatever it might be, that is all part of our operating expenses.
And you've got a CapEx amount of 3%?
3%, right. And it ends up being about $90,000 over 10 years, greater than the projection that Casper used. And I might add that the projection that Casper used was pretty aggressive. We didn't have the complete knowledge from Josh about the total amount of income coming from golf instruction. So our revenue line items in our projections were low in the golf instruction, but most of that gets paid out. So that isn't significant to what ends up being the EBITDA number. But we believe that our conservative projections show this. I'm thinking that, I know Billy Casper is good and they've been around a long time, but I'm a little bit pessimistic about what they're projecting. So I think that their 3% or their 4% of golf only is going to even be a lower number than they're showing in their pro forma.
Okay, but To be clear, the CapEx is in addition to
Right,
the rent.
it's a separate line item in the
Gotcha.
pro forma, and it's an additional. Now, you can call it a benefit for the city or additional rent if you'd like. Typically, it sits in a reserve account and is, with your permission, we have a mutual agreement that we'll use it on whatever we agree to use it on.
Right, for the maintenance of the golf course as you move
And it's
forward.
very important, and that fund would not be used for our phase 2, the $3 million building that we want to build. So that's not being set aside for that building. That would be a whole separate investment. And what triggers that is if we're performing well and we commit that $3 million by year 10, then our 20-year lease would get extended out to a new 20 starting in year 10. We're not asking to go beyond 20 years for our $1.5 million investment. The other offers, I believe Billy Casper had 2 5-year extensions, so they want a 30-year deal for $1.1 million in golf improvements, where we're asking for 20 years for 1.5. And you probably saw in their pro forma some pretty substantial EBITDA numbers and some substantial numbers. Ours, a little bit more modest. We're in it more for the long haul. The TGA motivation is to really grow the game and to build that facility. But we just couldn't see spending more than $1.5 million initially to repair the facility.
And 1.5, it sounds like, is to get the golf course up to where it needs to be.
Yes, sir.
And then you're saying in 10 years, if things are going well, we're going to throw another $3 million and take it on to phase 2.
Because as you know, it's a little bit disjointed. You got the clubhouse over here, and they're trying to sell merchandise down by the parking lot, but all the golf activity is up on the driving range. And, you know, we spent a lot of time watching the facility, and nobody is bringing customers in to sell merchandise. We feel like the future with a new building would be there'd be a starter down by the golf course, but all the merchandise, all the demo equipment, all the instruction would be right there. There'd be a synergy. Somebody that liked something wouldn't have to walk somewhere else to get it or wait for it. We would have a big enough facility where we would have merchandise on hand. They like that wedge, they walk out with that wedge. They like a new driver, they walk out with it. They want to go left-handed, we'll even do that. I saw you were left-handed. I saw you, Lee.
Right, so
oh, do you?
that makes sense.
Okay.
I've one quick question on the CapEx rendering. I guess it's a combination of kind of H and G areas. Is that
where are you, Carol?
H and G.
H and G.
Those
yes.
areas, are those over? How are those relating to the lake, the existing lake there?
Well, our position was that we didn't want to overrepresent in our rendering. We wanted to show that we're going to be in this area. What we'd like to do is take the existing water system and incorporate it with the 9th hole where it is up here right now. We would probably remove the lower lake area and the fountain, depending on what it costs to renovate it. Like to incorporate it, we think it's a nice feature, but we would rather create more space down here in conjunction with the patio for larger weddings. Right now they're doing weddings in one little spot over here. So what we wanted to do is create more of an open space for events that would come out from the small clubhouse. Once we build the new big clubhouse up here, then that's not as necessary. So you'll see in our improvements, we spend a little bit more in the clubhouse than our competitor. We do some similar things in the outside dining, but the biggest thing is right now, the people that are spending the most money right out here aren't getting much service from food and beverage. Now, they do a nice job. The food's good and the prices are right and all that, but there's no connectivity. So what we want to do is try to create a lot more energy between the golfers and the food and beverage area and then the special event area. Because what's really going to drive the revenue is to be able to do more with this facility. And we're really trying to embrace the green grass part of it. We've talked about the blue butterfly. I'm not quite sure what the specific environment is, but I'm going to leave that to Robin. But we're trying to make more green grass, not less. And all the other proposals make less green grass.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any further questions? Well, thank you all. Thank you all for coming, and I appreciate you coming down and giving the presentation.
We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, couple of housekeeping issues. The task force has asked for the 5, and I don't want to call you finalists, but you were the 5 selected to give presentations. I mean, the ultimate decision on what will happen will be with the city council. Our role is just to kind of give a public forum This is all being broadcast on television for anyone in the community to watch. All the RFPs have been posted. So our real goal is just to try to get the information to people, to get them as informed as possible so they can take their comments to City Council, who makes the ultimate selection and the ultimate decisions going forward. But for the 5 that gave presentations, we are asking for performance, much like what you've given us. And then Meredith is going to tell us kind of what the next steps are as far as the task force is concerned and where we'll go from here.
Thank you very much. So our next step as a task force, and for you task force members, given that you've heard 5 presentations over the last 2 days, and side note, thank you for spending the time with us to do this. I know that you may have learned something new, changed some opinions, and so, and I know that you've been taking notes. So what we'd like to do in preparations for the next meeting would be to ask you to go through your notes and revise your score sheets if you feel like the scores have changed since your initial review of the proposal. That'll be a big part of our conversation at the next special meeting. Our next special meeting, we'll need to confirm availability with everybody, but we're aiming for the week of, not next week, but the following week, so the week of the 23rd, and that meeting will be posted publicly with an agenda so people can find out when that meeting will take place. And as Ryan mentioned, part of that next meeting will also be to further review and analyze the pro forma information. We are requesting from some of the bidders to extend their pro formas to 20 years so that we are comparing apples to apples and make sure that we have all the pro formas there to take a look at. Our goal would be to see where we end up at that next meeting as far as the final rankings, pros and cons of each of the proposals, and then by way of the Golf Course Subcommittee and the Recreation and Parks Commission, which we have 2 representatives for both of those on this group, end up at City Council probably their 2nd meeting in August. That would be the target date. Of course, that could change depending on our discussion at the next meeting and timing wise, but that's where we are right now. Any questions on those items?
No, I would just, encourage us to move as quickly as possible to get going on this.
Yeah.
All right, on the agenda next is public communications. Anyone who's been patient enough to sit here all day and wants to make a comment, this is your moment. Please step forward. Great, just tell us who you are.
Pollard.
Can you just move the microphone?
Oh.
Thank you so much, Linda. We want to hear you.
Thank you. My name is Linda Pollard, El Segundo resident, 45 years. Over the last 6 years, I've attended many city council meetings and task force meetings, as well as listened to all the presentations these last 2 days regarding the future of the gem of our community golf course. I'm alarmed about the potential change to its character and culture, and that impact successful established programs and well-loved activities and opportunities for all age groups in El Segundo. No amount of money to the city can justify turning the lakes into a commercial high-tech entertainment center, sports bar, arcade, nightclub. Enhancing and preserving traditional golf certainly is the concept that most aligns with the results of the 2015 Lakes at El Segundo survey, and enhances, the financial, answering the financial issues without selling the soul of the lakes to corporate money. The support in this room certainly showed the passion that El Segundo residents have for improving the lakes as the community golf course that it was created and meant to be. Please consider that passion when you make your recommendations to the City Council.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, we'll close public communication. That brings us to adjournment, and the next meeting will be posted by the Parks and Rec for the task force. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.